that time, I thought the world was over. The meaning I gave that moment was destruction, despair. I thought it was the end of my life. Little would I know 16 years later, the defining moment of having to tell my mom that not only was I bankrupt, but the reason I wanted to be rich was to buy her a house, and I lost her house because I forgot to take my name off the title. I thought that was the end of my life. But yet, here 16 years later, my mom taught me when I answered the door and told her in tears, all she could tell me was, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Mom, I lost everything. I lost your house. You have to move." She said, I heard you. Are you okay? Do you need anything? I said, "No, Mom, I'm not sure you heard me. I lost everything, including your house. You have to move." She goes, "No, I heard you. Do you need some money? What do you need? Do you need me to help you find a place to live? How can I help you?" And I thought to myself, all those years of my mom making $12,000, $17,000 a year, me feeling guilty because I could make more in an hour on a stage than she made in a year with all those things she had to do. And I'm thinking in my life that she was lost. I realized that I was serving the wrong God, and my life and wife and mom, they knew better. I was the one that was lost at that moment. And by being lost, I became found, and I started to work through these daily practices, and I started to realize what's important to me and how blessed I was.
Welcome again to another episode on Unlocked from Within. Today's guest we have is David Meltzer. He is a legendary sports executive, entrepreneur, and investor. David co-founded Sports One Marketing and formerly served as the CEO of the renowned Leigh Steinberg Sports and Entertainment Agency, which was the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire. Considered one of the top esports entrepreneurs and investors, David is also a 3-time international best-selling author, a top 100 business coach, and a host of the top entrepreneur podcast, The Playbook. David is the executive producer of the Apple TV series 2 Minute Drill and Office Hours. He is also the executive producer of Entrepreneur's #1 digital business show, Elevator Pitch. David is featured in many books, movies, and TV shows such as The World's Greatest Motivators, Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy, and Beyond the Secret, airing on Netflix. Additionally, he has been recognized by the Variety magazine as their Sports Humanitarian of the Year. His life mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. This simple yet powerful mission has led him on an incredible journey to provide one thing: value. In all his content and communication, that's exactly what you'll receive. For the past 20 years, David has been providing free weekly trainings to empower others to be happy. So let's welcome David. Hey, David, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Good to see you.
Likewise. So welcome to Unlocked from Within.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming onto the show. And I think the last time we spoke was it was back in March this year. So yeah. So I hope you've been well.
Sure.
I'll get straight into it because I do value your time. So I'd like to delve into basically starting with your childhood.
Yeah. I grew up in a world of not enough. That's about the best way I can describe my childhood. My dad left when I was 5. My mom, single mom, 6 kids, working 2 jobs, packing our dinner in a paper bag just so we could eat, and working as a 2nd grade teacher and filling up turnstiles at a 7-Eleven. I only had one dream because I had a perfect life with a perfect family. That was to be rich, because the only time my life wasn't perfect was when there was financial distress. I'd catch my mom crying anytime there was financial pressure of something breaking down or a necessity, a family necessity that couldn't be met. And so as a 5-year-old, picking up on the fact that I was blessed to be around extraordinary, loving people, meaning my mom and my aunts and uncles and grandparents, and of course my siblings, I noticed that there was one void, shortage, or obstacle, and the only resolve to that void, shortage, and obstacle was financial. And so I set forth on a trajectory to make a lot of money, to buy happiness and love for everyone in my family. And that was my original mission, to leave the world of not enough. I was tired of being a victim. Everything was happening to me. I'd ask myself, why do they have that? Or I put onto my own perception that Some people thought they were better than me because they had a nicer car, a nicer house, or a nicer dad. And I had to work through that. And eventually I was able to leave that world and enter a new world when I finally made some money.
Awesome. And do you think can you think back on when do you think you had that burning desire? When do you think that was formulated?
Yeah, I think it was right when my dad left.
How old were you?
Yeah, I was only 5.
Wow.
And I remember thinking to myself that I had to take care of my mom.
Yeah.
Right? And I think, my mom was really, her messaging was doctor, lawyer, or failure. Her messaging was education's going to be your key to happiness. Education is the road out of here. And education would, as I always say, the fetus was fully developed after graduate school. And so for me, I, didn't agree with that. I thought money was the key to my happiness. Money was the key to getting out of here. And I remember thinking when my dad left, I'm the man of the house. Even though I had older brothers and an older sister, I remember thinking, okay, as the man of the house, I'm going to have to financially support everyone.
Wow. And did how many siblings do you have?
5. I had 5.
And did everyone have a bit of a different trajectory from when your dad left it when you were 5?
It was really interesting because I think all 5 of my siblings had the same trajectory, which was Harvard, Penn, or Columbia.
Wow.
And so they delved in. I remember sitting in the station wagon at night when the older siblings were studying or reading to the younger siblings, and they would tell me to pay attention or tell me to shut up. And I would tell them to shut up, called them stupid, and said, I'm going to be rich and you guys will be working for me someday. So keep on studying. And I hated to read and hated to study. Luckily, genetically, I'm like a LeBron James when it comes to school. So, I didn't have to work out very much. I didn't have to play very hard to get good grades, but I, definitely skirted my way through getting all A's and had to learn later on in life to be a good student.
Yeah, right. And so when do you think so you do think from 5 years old when your dad left, what was the initial feeling when he left? Did you sort of blame yourself or what came up?
Well, it was really difficult because there was an overwhelming sense of responsibility. And then I was abused as a 9-year-old, sexually abused as a 9-year-old.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, which just complicated it even more because at 9, and I never really even, because I do so much work in the personal development stage, I do so much of my own work that I thought I didn't need any help until I was about 50. And my wife suggested I go to therapy for this. So for the last 4 years, really have come to an understanding of, my idea of accountability. You see, I always thought at first accountability was responsibility. And that caused, a lot of trauma in my life. And then I thought accountability was, what did I do to attract this to myself? And what am I supposed to learn from it? So I thought I had under control all these things that happened to me as a victim, everything that happened to me as a young boy. I thought I was accountable for, in the respect that I attracted it so I could learn a lesson to make me better or promote me or protect me. But it evolved into, through therapy, a new definition of accountability. So I'm no longer responsible for anything. I'm accountable, but not accountable by attracting it, accountable by my participation in the perception. So what was my participation in the perception I was having in other people's perceptions as well? And then what was I supposed to learn from it? And when now looking back, I can see that I had a heavy weight on my shoulders because I couldn't even tell my mom what was going on because I was responsible at that time for my mom. And if I told my mom, it would have caused so much disruption, so much pain, so much interference that my sense of responsibility for my mom would not let me share any of the horrible things that were happening to me.
Well, yeah, it just completely derail her mission in providing for the family. Yeah, that's how you felt. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And then to think the passive, I get choked up thinking about it, a passive resentment that why aren't you protecting me?
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's very complicated, but it's made me stronger, right? I had to go through a lot of lessons because of it. But I did leave that world. When I graduated law school, it only took me 9 months to make my first $1 million.
Wow.
Um, and I transitioned from that world of not enough to the world of just enough for me. A lot of people live in the world of just enough. They think they're abundant, they think they're philanthropical, they give to receive, but in essence, they live in a zero-sum game where there's winners and losers, where there's negotiations, trades for everything, including giving. They live in a quid pro quo, not enough or just enough world. They're not victims, right? Nothing's happening to them, but in an essence, everything happens for you. And you don't even realize that you're buying things to make you happy, buying more things, different things. You're buying things to impress people. You're buying things to impress people you don't like. You have no self-esteem because you're living in a world of others' esteem. You're only worried about what other people think of you, what other people want for you, what's missing, what you don't have. And that, to me, was even more of a difficult time because I had everything I dreamed of. I was a millionaire 9 months out of law school. I bought my mom that house and a car. I was a multi-millionaire, married to my dream girl, living in my dream house, being able and capable of buying whatever I wanted by the time I was 30, running Samsung's phone division. By the time I was 35, I was running the most notable sports agency in the world. So not only was I a multi-millionaire worth over $100 million, but I had access to things that even billionaires could buy. And so I had to really reconcile my faith, and my faith was in self, that I was in charge and in control, that everything was happening for me. I thought I was a humanitarian. I thought I was philanthropic, but really I was living an empty world, an empty zero-sum game, trading and negotiating my way through everything until finally my wife, thank goodness, saved my life by being the first person to tell me no and tell me that she was going to leave me, that I was going to end up dead if I continued to surround myself with the same people and the same ideas. And I was out of control. And thank God my wife woke me up to take stock in who I was and what I wanted to become, so that I could again put my faith. See, I thought I didn't serve any God, but what I realized, I was serving the wrong God. And when I started to serve the right God, the abundant God of more than enough, of omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that loves me more than my mom, that's when I started to live my life in the right trajectory. And not only was I taking stock in who I was, but I was going to take stock in what I wanted to become, not what I was.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's an amazing story. Like, so you owned the ski resorts, you had the Ferraris, the golf courses. How many properties did you have at your height?
I have to be honest, I don't even know how many. I know in San Diego alone, I had 33. I
Yeah.
would imagine we had over 50 properties.
Yeah.
Ones that today, when you're talking about Spanish Peaks and Yellowstone Club in Montana, when you're talking about the areas of Arizona that we own property, Las Vegas, we own property. And then, of course, in San Diego, we're with the golf course and ski mountain, over $100 million in real estate.
Wow. That's amazing. And like, leading up to that first $1 million from your childhood, like, did you have those feelings of, like you would have had the victim mentality and the why me's and all that, but what do you think shifted when you made that first $1 million?
I think that it was a confirmation that money could buy you happiness and love. It's that I wanted it so bad. And then when I finally got it, that my identity was tied to my bank account. So as my bank account hit that $1 million and kept going higher and higher, I rode that identity until finally, over time, I realized I was living on a house of cards, that my identity wasn't that money bought love or happiness. It was giving meaning to what I could buy with the money that I had. And when I started buying the right things for the right reasons, instead of to make me happy, instead of to buy things I didn't need or to impress people, that's when my life would change forever. When I put myself and started serving the right God to be of service and of value, and to ask for help, which those are all closely tied to me. A lot of people talk about being a service, and a lot of nurses and teachers and doctors and service providers forget the most important part of being a doctor, a nurse, or a service provider, or a teacher, and that's asking for help themselves, because they can't give what they don't have. And what they do is they dissipate, dissolve, and disappear their own capabilities because they have guilt or shame in asking for help.
And then, like, did the I think you said your dad. How old were you when he forgot your first birthday? You were 10 years
Yeah,
old?
I was 10 years old and my life would change. My dad was my hero, even though he left, right? I was young. It was the 70s. I didn't understand. So I have still a little bit of guilt when I used to sit in the back of that station wagon and my dad made money, was married to a girl closer to my age than his, and wasn't paying any child support. We were on food stamps, and I'd ask my mom in the car, hey, how come you're not more like dad? But he made a major mistake, because at 10, he forgot my birthday, but it wasn't necessarily the hurt, which was bad, that he forgot my birthday. It was his response when I asked him how he could do that. And he said, well, because I don't believe in birthdays. Meanwhile, he was celebrating his birthday, his girlfriend's birthday, my siblings' birthdays. And I realized at that time, my dad was a liar, right? He was a cheater. He was a manipulator, overseller, back-end seller, and I wanted nothing to do with him. And that all came to a head when I was 30, which I always call the red flag of my life. So I'm on top of the world at 30, married to my dream girl, in my dream house, able to buy whatever I want, having been CEO of Samsung's phone division. I have every facet of my life under control, supposedly. And I get a birthday present from my dad. And I thought my dad had changed. I thought my dad understood who I was, and we were going to reconcile, which every son wants to have a relationship with their father, regardless of how abusive they are, wants to have that relationship. So I open this box and there's a jacket, and I go from complete joy to complete hate, because he tore out all the pockets in the jacket. And it was obvious that once again, he was trying to show his superiority by giving me a jacket that I couldn't wear. So I called him and I said, why are you punishing me? And he said, what are you talking about? I said, you gave me a jacket I can't wear after 20 years. My first present, something I can't even use. And he said, son, that jacket's not for wearing. I'm worried about you. You're just like me. You cannot take anything when you're dead with you. So I gave you a jacket to remind you that you can't take anything when you're gone, that money doesn't buy love or happiness. Trust me, son, you're down the same path that I was down. I want you to learn from my mistakes. And I told him I wasn't ready to hear that, right? I hate you. You're a liar, a cheater, manipulator, overseller, back-end seller. I'm nothing like you. You don't know what you're talking about. I hung up on him. That was the first red flag as I look back when I lost everything, that I should have taken notice to, that I should have realized that my father loved me more than I thought, that I was participating in the wrong perception, and I had lessons to learn.
And then going on from there, how long after was it when you did lose everything? You lost the 100 million or 120 million and became bankrupt.
Yeah, it was 8 years. 6 years, though, after that jacket is when my wife gave me the wake-up call. So by the time I lost everything, at least I was on the path of enlightenment. I was on the path of shifting a paradigm of faith. I went from, in those 2 years, which was 8 years after the jacket, I went from always trying to get more, always trying to be more happy, more healthy, more wealthy, and more worthy, to a point when I went bankrupt of acknowledgement, knowing that the only way you can acquire the knowledge of anything is to not have it anymore. So I now knew when I hit rock bottom financially that I was happy, I was wealthy, I am healthy, I am happy, I am worthy, I am wealthy. I just had to figure out what I was doing to interfere with it and put my faith into practice, knowing I'm being promoted and protected, even during bankruptcy. Not punished was an extraordinary lesson, which I utilize the capabilities of that lesson today so that I make more money than I ever have. I help more people than I ever have. And I have more fun than I ever have, not through ignorant arrogance, but through ignorant humility, radical humility, that I'm not in control, that I have faith that I am part and parcel of something much bigger than me that loves me more than my mom.
And so when you hit rock bottom, like what practical steps were you taking to just go from the day it happened to the next day and just taking it day by day?
So over the last 16 years, I've developed these daily practices, which I love to share because I'm on a mission to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. And I think these daily practices are a pragmatic tool to make your own and to allow you to experience the same type of accelerated journey that I've been able to experience. And those 5 daily practices are very simple. Number one, know what you want today in a trajectory of what you think you want tomorrow, being open-minded to the lessons to change your mind. When you know what you want, you take nothing and make it a possibility. The second practice is know who you can help and who can help you. The fastest way to get to where you want to be is not only find someone who's already there to give you directions, but also help someone get to where they want to be. That will make your possibility a probability. Now, the next step is know your how. Knowing your how requires you to understand the limitation of time. When we understand the limitation of time, we can focus in on how to be most productive, accessible, and gracious, aligned with what we want and who we can help in a trajectory of what we think we want in the future. And if you know your what, your who, and your how, you now know what's important to you. Not what's important to other people, not what's missing, not what you don't have, but what's important to you. And if you know what's important to you, you will know your now. See, if to know your now, you know what's important, you know what's to prioritize. Prioritization is the antidote to procrastination, is the antidote to feeling overwhelmed. It's impossible to procrastinate or feel overwhelmed if you know what's important to you and prioritize it. You know your now. And if you know your what, you know your possibility, your who, the probability, the how, you know your perception. The now makes it real. All you have to do is implement that faith, and you can apply your why. Stop searching for whatever you have. You are happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy. Apply your why and figure out what you're doing to interfere with your source to be your best, to pursue your potential. Know your what, your who, your how, and your now. Apply your why, and you can do whatever you want in a trajectory of whatever you want or better.
That's so awesome. So awesome. And with your, like, when you did lose it all and you even lost your mum's house, what were the words that she said to you?
Well, that was life-changing. I always tell people about the limitation of the past is only the meaning that you give the defining moments. The past is infinite, future is infinite, the present's limited by time, 24 hours of man-made constructive time. At that time, I thought the world was over. The meaning I gave that moment was destruction, despair. I thought it was the end of my life. Little would I know 16 years later, the defining moment of having to tell my mom that not only was I bankrupt, but the reason I wanted to be rich was to buy her a house, and I lost her house because I forgot to take my name off the title. I thought that was the end of my life. But yet, here 16 years later, my mom taught me when I answered the door and told her in tears, all she could tell me was, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Mom, I lost everything. I lost your house. You have to move." She said, I heard you. Are you okay? Do you need anything? I said, "No, Mom, I'm not sure you heard me. I lost everything, including your house. You have to move." She goes, "No, I heard you. Do you need some money? What do you need? Do you need me to help you find a place to live? How can I help you?" And I thought to myself, all those years of my mom making $12,000, $17,000 a year, me feeling guilty because I could make more in an hour on a stage than she made in a year with all those things she had to do. And I'm thinking in my life that she was lost. I realized that I was serving the wrong God, and my life and wife and mom, they knew better. I was the one that was lost at that moment. And by being lost, I became found, and I started to work through these daily practices, and I started to realize what's important to me and how blessed I was. And I stopped taking for granted what other people wanted, what I wanted, and I started doing things in the right trajectory with the right people and the right ideas. And here I am today to empower other people to do the same, more happy, more healthy, more wealthy, and more worthy by finding out what I was doing to interfere with what I already was.
Amazing. So unconditional love, seeing her,
Absolutely.
yeah, at the bottom of it all, unconditional love.
Yeah, but
And
it didn't kill me. It saved my life. And that's the
amazing.
defining moment. Yes. Last
And
question, my friend.
yeah, one last thing is, if there's someone listening to this that, you know, they're suicidal, they've got depression, in that victim mentality state, if it meant that they could live another day, what would you say to them?
Well, there's two things I say. One, seek help from a professional, right? And to that end, the second thing I would say is, how could I be of service or value to you? Right? My life and mission is to make people happy. So if you're too afraid to ask for help, if you're insecure about, if you're confused, then email me, call me, let me give you 5 minutes of guidance to change the way you look at things so the things you look at change. And then I can help you find a professional to help you so that we can start your journey on a trajectory of what you think you want to make more money, help more people, and have more fun yourself. So, you know, my basic message is ask for help. And if you can't find someone professionally, call me and I'll help you.
Awesome. Thanks again, David, for your time. Thanks for being on Unlocked from Within. Hopefully we can do this again. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Great interview. I appreciate you. And I look forward to doing more with you. Great interview.
Thank you. Thanks again. Thanks again to listening to Unlocked from Within. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone that you think it would help out and be of service and value. If you want to know more about David Meltzer, you can check out his books, Connected to Goodness, Manifest Everything You Desire in Business and Life. That's available on Amazon. And his other book, his latest book, Game Time Decision Making, High Scoring Business Strategies from the Biggest Names in Sports. You can also listen to his podcast, The Playbook, which is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, and Amazon. You can also find him at dmeltzer.com, and he's also on YouTube, David Meltzer, Instagram at David Meltzer, and on Facebook, David Meltzer. Again, thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe and leave a review. Thanks again.